We are recording tonight's presentation so that we can share it with folks who maybe registered for the event and couldn't make it at the last second, but we are also going to be showing this, both the panel discussion that we're about to have about recovery as well as the Narcan training. We'll be showing those on Pegasus. So if you don't get to see the entire event tonight, you will be able to tune into Pegasus and catch some later screenings. So we're so grateful to Pegasus for making that possible. So thank you for filming us this evening. Also wanted to just say a big thank you to the Morse Institute Library for hosting us here this evening. And you'll also be hearing a little bit in a few minutes about some of the awesome organizations that are repped by our panelists who will be speaking in just a moment. I do want to just say, if you are joining us remotely and you would like to have closed captioning, you should see a closed captioning option at the bottom of your screen. I believe it's the bottom right-hand corner of your screen. So please feel free to turn on the captioning option if you would benefit from that tonight. I also just want to mention, and I kind of started chatting without even introducing myself to those who I haven't had the benefit of meeting yet. My name is Katie Sugarman. I work for the Natick Health Department as the Prevention and Outreach Program Manager. I also work as the Program Director for the Natick 180 Coalition. If you're not familiar with Natick 180, Natick 180 is a coalition here in Natick that works to prevent and reduce substance use disorder in our community, and we dubbed ourselves Natick 180 quite a few years ago now because we work on the 180-degree spectrum or continuum of addiction. So we're trying to prevent it, but we're also trying to connect folks to treatment and support recovery in our community. We also believe that change is possible, so you can always make a 180. We are thrilled to be able to talk tonight with some phenomenal people in recovery. We have 3 panelists in person who are going to be joining me in just a moment here at our table for a discussion. And then we also have a panelist who's joining us remotely. So we'll introduce them in just a second. We'll have about a half an hour or so for some discussion about their recovery experiences and what they, some of the resources that they proudly represent, because they now work to support recovery for other people too. And then we're going to get into a Narcan training. Tonight's event is called Save a Life because we are promoting a regional and statewide campaign called Save a Life. And we are really trying to encourage folks to get trained in Narcan, to get trained to recognize an opioid overdose, and to take action if you see somebody who you think may be experiencing an overdose. If you're joining us remotely tonight and you wanted to get a Narcan kit, the good news is that by participating in tonight's event, you're getting the training. We will send a follow-up email to everybody who's registered tonight, and we'll make arrangements for anybody who's joining us remotely to get you a Narcan kit. If you're here in person tonight, we have some Narcan kits here that you'll be able to leave this evening with. So hopefully we'll be wrapping up the programmatic kind of components of the night by right around 8:05, 8:10. And for folks who are still in the room at that point, we've got resources. We're going to invite folks to network with each other. We also have a really phenomenal art project that we've been working on as a region. It's traveled from Natick to Framingham to Hudson, and it's kind of growing over time. And we're encouraging folks to share either positive messages of encouragement and support for recovery, or if they wanted to remember somebody that they've lost to overdose or to substance use, they have the opportunity to do that as well. So anybody who's here in the room, if you want to add to that art project this evening, we would love to have your contribution. And you do not have to be an artist to do it. You can just write a positive message. And if you don't want to write one, you can at least go check them out because some of the messages are really phenomenal. I get inspired every time we do this because folks have shared such amazing messages. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and invite our panelists to join me up here. I think one may have just had to step out for a second, but he'll be joining us in just a moment. And I'll invite Bridget, who's also joining us remotely, to also, if she has a camera and she wants to turn it on, that would be awesome. She is on, awesome. So yeah, come on up and take a seat. wherever you see a mic and a water bottle, feel free to take a seat. So I'm delighted to have in the room with me some awesome collaborators and partners in talking about recovery. I will start with, I'll start, you're right on time, Scott. Awesome. Perfect timing. I'll go from left to right for the audience, from the audience's perspective, left to right. First, we're joined by Scott Francis, who's the Metro West coordinator for the Mass Organization for Addiction Recovery. So thrilled to have you here, Sunshine Scotty.
Hold the applause.
And next to Scotty, we've got Mikey Diver, who's the Director of Community Relations for the Peak Treatment Center located in Worcester, right? And then we are also joined by Scotty Mack, who is the treatment advocate from Charles River Recovery, which is located in Weston. And joining us remotely is Bridget Nicholson, who is the program director for Anchored in Recovery, which is a program of SMOC. If you're not familiar with Anchored in Recovery, it's located in downtown Framingham and does awesome work supporting folks in any stage of recovery they're in. We were there just a few weeks ago for a recovery celebration. We were all there, actually. It was a great afternoon. Can't recommend enough that folks, especially here in Natick, who may not be familiar with that resource, take advantage of it, because it's a phenomenal one that we have access to here in Metro West. So with that, I just wanted to maybe give each person on the panel a minute or two to kind of start up, and maybe just sharing a little bit about, if you're welcome to share a little bit about the agency or the organization you work for, if you wanted to share some of the recovery supports you have, but also if you have anything about your own recovery experience that you'd like to share. So maybe I'll start. Sunshine Scotty's telling me start at the other end. So Scotty Mack, I don't know how you feel comfortable starting us off.
Absolutely, no problem. Thank you for the hot seat, Scotty.
You got it.
So I'm Scotty Mack. I'm a treatment advocate with Charles River Recovery. I always say, more importantly, I am a person in recovery myself. I went from, starting with drinking and smoking weed in high school, all the way down the path to IV drug use. I experienced homelessness during my addiction. I basically hit every bottom that you can imagine to hit, spent time in jail cells, and found my way to recovery. And I'm blessed to have long-term recovery today, and now have the opportunity to work in the field, helping other people to find the treatment that started my journey in recovery. One of the things that I do always share is the way that I work my recovery. In the program that I work, we refer to our primary purpose as staying sober and helping another to achieve sobriety. And being blessed to have that purpose be reflected in my career is something I never imagined could have happened. And Charles River Recovery, where I work, we are a detox residential treatment center. We also offer outpatient treatment at day treatment, PHP, and IOP levels of care. That's for alcohol use and substance use disorder. And we are dual diagnosis throughout every level of care on that side. We also just started offering primary mental health outpatient services, day treatment, PHP, and IOP. So even if somebody is not struggling with substance use, we do have an option available to help with their grief, depression, trauma, anxiety, any mental health diagnosis. Really, we're there to help. So trying to be a facility that is there for the people of our community in every way we can be is what we strive for, and I'm blessed to be a part of it. If anyone has more questions about the facility, you can always reach out to me directly, and I'm sure I can share my info in any way that's needed.
Yeah, absolutely. And we will be sending out an email post-event, so we can also send your contact information and the contact information of all of our panelists in that email to folks, so that they can have all your contact info.
Wonderful.
Right.
And if I may say,
Yeah.
Scotty Mack is too humble, right? He'll do anything he can to help a person get into treatment, whether it's at Charles River or another facility, because not too long ago, somebody was struggling, needed some support. I called him up, and within an hour, we had a person, had a spot reserved, an interview reserved, and then something happened. But this was like, and it didn't stop, because the person, anyways, they ended up having to go to a hospital, but Scotty didn't give up on the person and worked through the weekend and got this young adult a bed, and the person is still in treatment now. So if he can't help them at Charles River, he'll help them somewhere else, because it was just really impressive what you did all weekend long, like to help make sure this person found his way to get the support he needed to make recovery real.
Thank
Recovery,
you so much, Scotty.
recovery is real. That is Sunshine Scotty's, that is his slogan. You should trademark that.
Samsa stole it. Did you see that?
No, I did not.
It's Samsa's theme of Recovery Month is recovery is real.
There you go. Well, and we have wristbands in the back of the room that say recovery is real. I'm rocking one right now. So feel free to grab one before you leave here tonight.
I just want to carry the message.
All right. So Mikey, do you want to go next? Do you want to share a little bit about your recovery journey and what recovery supports you offer through your agency?
Yeah, absolutely. My name's Mike Diver. I'm a person in long-term recovery. I also work in the treatment field as well. My sobriety date is October 5th, 2020. So I'm about to come up on 5 years next month, you know, and it's a date. Thanks. It's your birthday?
Yeah.
All right.
2000.
So I am a person in long-term recovery. I've been incarcerated. I've been sectioned. I've been to detox over 56 times in 7 years. The point is that I never gave up trying, and I had great family support that never gave up on me. You know, now my passion is to pull people out of the darkness, to recover out loudly so people don't have to suffer in silence, and to let them know that there is a way out. My passion is to go doing commitments, things like this, spreading the message, spreading the hope that there is light at the end of the tunnel. You just need to do a little bit of work and trust the process. I am a director of community relations for a brand new outpatient center in Worcester. Why I made this move to the outpatient center in Worcester is it's going to be the first outpatient center to be in network with everything across the board. So I'm going to be able to help all of Mass Health pretty soon, which is very limited in this state for help, and all of commercial insurance. So my goal is to remove every barrier from treatment. So when someone does call us, we can say, hey, we can help you, instead of, hey, we can't help you because we don't accept that insurance. Just like Scotty, my passion is to connect people with the resources that they need. If I can't help them, then I'm going to make sure that they get the best help. And I'm not just sending anywhere just to send. I'm making sure that this place that I'm sending to is vetted, and it's somewhere that I would send my own like friend or family. So at the end of the day, recovery is real. And this is how we make it real. We show up, we suit up, and we talk out loud, because people are suffering in silence right now, and they need to hear our message. So I'm really honored to be a part of this, and I'm excited. Thank you.
Let's give it up.
Thank you. And I feel like there's already a theme that's emerging around so much of the generosity that exists in the recovery community. The idea that, you know, even though folks represent different agencies, that ultimately trying to help people get well is the goal that most of us share together. And I think that's one of the things that I've taken from my years of getting to know folks in the recovery community is just that generosity of spirit and that trying to increase access to recovery for everyone. So.
And these meetings are very important to me, especially this area. I grew up in Framingham. I live in Natick right now, so this is my backyard. So like anything to help people in this area especially is like so important to me.
Yeah.
So if anybody has any questions, pretty much if you need any resources in recovery, the three people up here have it all covered. So please get our numbers. And if you have any needs or any questions, resources, please reach out. We answer the phone as long as we're not sleeping. Because we know when someone makes a decision to go get help, there's a small window for that decision. So we move quick, we work quick to get people access to treatment.
Awesome. Thank you. Scotty, I'll let you go next, and then I'm going to invite Bridget, who's joining us remotely from Anchor to Recovery, to also share a little bit about herself. So go for it.
Bridget
Scott.
and I are making the rounds today. We're at the same place this
Oh,
afternoon.
were you?
So I'm Sunshine
CBA.
Scotty. It's hey, happy International Recovery Day to everybody. So yes, that's worth a clap. Definitely. Yes, it's good to be here with all the wonderful people. I just love this community and this coalition, and I always say yes whenever Natick 180 asks me to do anything. So as far as my recovery goes, I entered into addiction recovery on October 6th, 2006. And, you know, I had 10 and a half months. I was doing very well. And then I didn't know what I didn't know. I had to return to use when I traveled. And I need to get some more supports. Another month later, I had what I hope to be is my last return to use, and that was on September 21st, 2007. And I used multiple pathways of recovery to support my recovery. My primary pathway of recovery is Wellness Recovery Action Plan, which is based on 5 key concepts: hope, personal responsibility, education, support, and self-advocacy. And then from that, I go to all different types of mutual aid supports. I'm part of, I have a home group, and use all these different pathways of recovery, whether it be Life Ring, Secular Recovery, Wellbriety, Smart Recovery, AA, NA, exercise. And that's, I'll be honest with you, that's why I was a little bit late. I was getting in a cardio workout, and then my son had a meltdown. So I was like, all right, but I'm here. And I am really grateful that I work for MORE. MORE stands for Massachusetts Organization for Addiction Recovery. And we really do our best, like everybody up here, to build community, to support people to access resources. And our mission is to organize recovering individuals, families, and friends into a collective voice to educate the public about the value of recovery from alcohol and other addictions. So we really work at creating community. Let's face it, you can't have community without unity, right? So, and we do our best to, deliver trainings in the community. So if anybody wants like a recovery messaging training or a core retraining, anything we can do to help educate. And then we also do advocacy work at the State House. We were a couple weeks ago up there advocating or educating the public about the value of overdose prevention centers, because they have them in like 13 different countries. And people are dying, over 2,000 people a year in Massachusetts of an overdose. And right now there's nobody dying in overdose prevention centers. So that's stuff we're doing. Also the nicotine-free generation stuff. If anybody wants to get involved with that, there's a wonderful group of dedicated people trying to really support the Commonwealth to make it as difficult as possible to obtain nicotine products, because they kill people just like alcohol does. So anything we can do around that, please. We're also trying to raise the alcohol tax, because it has been raised since when Mikey was in diapers. So it's been a long time. Actually, maybe you weren't even born yet. Huh?
38.
Okay, you weren't even born yet. I think it was raised a long time ago. So anyways, this is what we try to do, is bring people together, help people get involved in the community, and carry a message that recovery is real.
Well said, Scotty. And you just touched upon so many important themes of recovery, right? You talked about self-care. You practice self-care today. Life also still happens in the midst of recovery. So that means nothing goes according to plan, but you also showed up, right? And like, that's at the heart of recovery, right? It's just showing up. So thank you for sharing that. Now I want to invite Bridget Nicholson from Anchored in Recovery to join us remotely. I'm going to just check with our friends from Pegasus. Do I need to spotlight Bridget in order for? All right. Sounds like it's all good. So Bridget, if you want to share a little bit about your own recovery journey, if you are willing to share that, and also a little bit about what Anchored in Recovery does.
Absolutely. I'd love to. You can hear me okay?
Yeah, we can hear you. Great.
Awesome. So my name is Bridget Nicholson. I'm a woman in long-term recovery. I have been in recovery since January 2011. And I was just graced with being able to solidify that and bare minimally at that time make the decision, because for far too long I didn't make the decision. I actually never asked for help. I didn't know that it was available, or I might have been in a denial. Still up for debate, but I did get the grace to make that decision in that year after suffering, like many of the panelists, many individuals with a substance use disorder, being unhoused, being labeled, being put in a box, and kind of blocked from the rest of the world, because I was supposed to, fit inside a lens that was only one way back in that time. So I did make the decision while incarcerated to mentally choose to find recovery. And that's the date I choose to stay with, is when that decision was made for me, not when I didn't stop, when I did or didn't use or not. So something that really benefited and strengthened my recovery and helped my journey was self-help books, time with myself, and really like getting real with myself, because that's something I didn't do for most of my life, coming from generational norms, different cultural norms, if you will. So I was able to tap into really just like dissecting and finding that want and desire and need to, change, right? I knew it was like all or nothing at that moment for me. I was a mother of 3 by then. I had to go through custody battles and, many other things along the way. However, with education, like what has been spoken about, trainings, groups on many different levels, I found recovery and was able to strengthen that. Community was one of the biggest pieces that I accredit my recovery to, is community support within the recovery community. Learning how to, be open, even myself, with different pathways, different beliefs, and just being able to be accepted and not judged in certain areas was really beneficial for my recovery. In all this time that's passed since I found my recovery, thank goodness it has shifted. The thing that I hold dearest to me is repping that exact model. You're in recovery when you say you are, whatever that looks like, trying my darndest to not put another individual like I once felt, as though I was in a box and I just didn't fit, supporting people wherever they're at, and no matter their readiness for change or not, just being compassionate and supportive, because supported people recover. And I know for myself, I had a lot of agency, judicial entities and loved ones that told me what I should do and how I can fix it. And that just never worked. So the systems of care that are out there now are just, really, really needed. And I like to embody those, even if they don't fit mine, because that could help somebody else. Some things that didn't help, obviously, the stigma and feeling those ways. But if I share my story, I feel like, somebody else that feels those same feelings will be encouraged and supported, that they're not alone and that they can reach out for help. With that being said, I found Everyday Miracles in Worcester when I had gotten out of incarceration, and all these years later, I ended up working there for many, many, many years, and I found myself in Framingham with, as you said, SMOC. I am with South Middlesex Opportunity Council, currently the program director of another peer recovery center called Anchored in Recovery, funded by BSAS. And we are an All Pathways to Recovery peer recovery support center. We offer meetings, different types of meetings, from AA, NA, All Pathways to Recovery, the All Recovery platform, where you can just share on the I statement and you're able to take a piece of anything that you want to try, or shift your focus on, because it feels a little bit more comfortable. We have recovery coaches. We have all staff that have lived experience with one or more challenges that have been crippling or put them at risk at some point in their life, for that lived experience piece. We have fun activities. We love to celebrate recovery every day in September, but every day for the rest of the year as well, and find those little wins, encourage uh, support, and, you know, find a platform to give to the next person. And I want to say the best part of my day, and it's not just one time a day, it's so many times a day. The best part of my day is to be able to see the flower bloom, to see the change within somebody's eyes when, you know, that change happens. It's just a beautiful thing to be able to be part of that and to see a community thrive and grow. So I thank you for having me and letting me share.
Thanks, Bridget.
Thanks, Bridget. You touched upon so many important themes there and so many fabulous things. I think about Anchored in Recovery too, the idea that it's a space that welcomes everyone, that it's a space that meets people where they are, that it's a space that really allows folks to sort of find their own journey towards change, whatever that might be, whatever that might look like. And we, I think, kind of collectively believe that, you know, that there are multiple pathways to recovery. And so I love that Anchored in Recovery is a non-judgmental space for that where people can really kind of learn about different pathways, different resources, and build community. Because as we've heard kind of, you know, the recurring theme, and I think everyone's comments, is the importance of community in recovery. Maybe since we already had Bridget off mic, maybe I'll just ask her if, I don't know if you would be willing to sort of comment on why you think it's important for people to be trained in Narcan to save a life. You know, what you've either seen through your own experience or through other people's experiences that make getting trained in Narcan so critically important in our communities.
Absolutely. A life is a life, and it's like the most important thing in this world. No matter what an individual has gone through or done, that person's a human, and they might be the toughest, strongest human there is in this world that could pave a way, you know, next. This is a crippling disease, and any life lost is far too much pain and suffering. Families are being destroyed. Recovery is possible, and the barriers that are out there are far too high for some, that interrupt their ability to find that. And if given that opportunity, I believe that any human deserves to live. This is a disease. This isn't a determination of who this person is by what they are physically dependent on. This is a survival. Just like, I am not going to lie, I love coffee in the morning. Like, it's far worse than that. And this isn't a choice, you know, when somebody is in that state. They're the most beautiful people in the world. They're the most determined, strong people in the world. And to lose anybody is just way too much.
Thank you for that, Bridget. Really well said, for sure. And I also want to just acknowledge that Bridget is a movie star in our midst, because she was part of a really beautiful and amazing film called Recovery City, which was filmed by a local documentarian here in Natick, who's also a teacher in Natick, Lisa Olivieri. And there was the first nationwide screening last night on PBS World. So great to see you again on screen, Bridget. Would any of our panelists here in the room like to comment on the importance of Narcan, or how you've seen Narcan positively impact folks that you've known? Yeah, go for it, Scotty.
I'd love to. So what Bridget was touching on is, it's absolutely true. You know, this is a disease. It's a disease that affects everybody. It's a disease that affects people who are homeless on the streets. It's a disease that affects people who are hardworking and go to work every day, but are struggling with addiction in the dark. And at the end of the day, a life is a life, as she said. You know, everyone's life is worth saving. On top of that, my life was saved with Narcan. And there was fentanyl in the drugs that I was using. I was unaware of that. and I had to be Narcan several times because I kept almost overdosing again without using for another time. So that's also the importance of the education surrounding Narcan, knowing that you need to keep it on hand. You need to make sure that person does get to medical treatment directly after, because bringing them back from an overdose might not be the end of that story that night, or that day. The reason I also share that is in my life today, like I said, I'm blessed to be in a position to help other people achieve sobriety. The number of people who work in this field, helping others constantly to save lives consistently day after day after day, and bring more and more people from the depths of addiction into recovery, the number of them whose lives would have been lost if it were not for Narcan is uncountable. So it's not saving one life. It's saving the life of somebody who can then go on and recover and then spread recovery further and bring more and more people out of the dark into the light and save countless lives. So it's not, like I said, it's not one life that one dose of Narcan is going to save. It's every life that individual in recovery can then affect in a positive way, and countless people that they can save going forward.
Well said. And we're so glad that you're here with us tonight, Scott, and making the impacts that you are. Any other comments from the panel? Yeah, go
Touch
for
on
it.
it. I think the last two speakers hit the nail on the head, but I mean, I was also saved by Narcan as well. And the thing is, when someone is overdosing, it's a very scary situation and time sensitive situation. And there's stuff out there now that Narcan can't even touch. So to have the proper training to save someone's life and administer this drug, and to know if it's not working and what to do next. There's the xylazine out right now that Narcan can't even come close to. So you could think that someone's overdosing and the Narcan's going to save them, and you're just waiting for the sprays to kick in, and it's actually xylazine in their system, which isn't going to bring them back, which needs immediate ambulance or medical attention. So I think the proper training and to know what signs to look for and when it is time to take the next step, or if you know it's not working, because you could just sit there and keep spraying multiple doses into people hoping for the best, and that person's literally dying at your hands. So I honestly think that proper training with this Narcan will save a life and will help you save a life.
Yeah, absolutely. Well said. And I will say that all of the Narcan kits that we have do contain xylazine test strips and fentanyl test strips. So it's important to know if you are taking a kit and if you are having it on your person, in part because you might know somebody in your personal life who might be actively using, making those strips available to them in order to reduce their risk for overdose. But thank you for mentioning xylazine too, because that is unfortunately another drug that has been cut into the drug supply. So we'll talk a little bit more about it too in a few minutes during the Narcan training. Anything else you want to add to, Scott, before
My
we
story's not
move
as
to
good
the-
as that.
Every recovery story is good in its own way.
I will say this, I was doing a training down at Step Rocks Recovery Center probably about 8 years ago. And all of a sudden somebody came running into the center saying, help, help, someone's passed out right on the street. And we ran out there, and the person was able to receive Narcan, and they had their life saved. We called rescue. And, if somebody didn't see something and say something, there's a good chance that person would have died, So it's important to be able to have Narcan accessible throughout the community, and then have people who are able to administer it. So, and then call for help. So most important thing to do is have someone call 911 and have other people then give treatment to the person.
That's right.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
If I
Yeah,
may
go
also,
for it.
something I also forgot to mention is part of the question was why it's so important to have more people trained in Narcan. And the reality is people aren't overdosing just outside of police stations or just at peer recovery centers where Narcan's available, or outside of a treatment center. Like, people are overdosing everywhere. And whether it's the loved ones of an individual who's struggling with addiction, like, they need to be trained in Narcan, absolutely. But even just going down the street, walking into your favorite Dunkin' Donuts, like, you never know when you might find somebody who is struggling with addiction and is on literally their last breath. And any person trained in Narcan could be the person to save that life. So it's of the utmost importance that as many people as humanly possible know how to use it.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, that's an awesome segue, I think, into our Narcan training. So a little round of applause for our panelists. And again, want to acknowledge Bridget, who's not here with us physically, but joined us remotely. Thank you so much for your time this evening, all of you. We really appreciate it. And our panelists who are here in person are going to be here for a little while, and I'm sure would be willing to chat with folks. So
Yeah,
thank you again.
no problem.
Thank you so
guys.
much.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Thank you, Bridget. All right, so we're going to dive into our Narcan training. So I'm just going to share my screen. Back to sharing it. Hopefully it's thinking about it. There we go. All right. So we've already gotten into our questions for our panelists. So now we're going to get into talking about Narcan and rescue breathing. Just a few quick reminders or overviews for folks who maybe either haven't been trained in Narcan before or who have been and just want a little bit of a refresher. It is worth knowing that there are some risk factors that can put a person at higher risk for overdose. And these might be worth just keeping in the back of your mind, especially if there's somebody in your own life that you might care about or you might worry about who experiences substance use related challenges. So periods of abstinence can put a person at higher risk for overdose. So that could be because they've been in treatment, maybe they've been in sustained recovery for a long period of time, maybe they've been incarcerated for a period of time. During that window of time when they're not using, their tolerance for the opioid actually drops. And so if they go and use again or have a relapse, the risk of them overdosing goes up exponentially. So that's another reason why, as folks are being discharged from treatment programs, as they're being released from incarceration settings, places like Anchored in Recovery and other recovery-oriented spaces, we want to continue to make Narcan readily available because, it's worth remembering that for many people, recovery is not a straight line. It's often, if any of us have ever had to make any major changes in our lives, if any of us have tried to lose weight or quit caffeine or quit nicotine, you know how challenging that can be, and that sometimes you have to try a few times before you find the pathway and the strategies that work for you. And so that's one of the reasons why we want to make sure that folks in recovery have easy access to Narcan too, in case they do have a relapse, that it's not a fatal relapse. We want to keep people alive as they find their journey, as they find their pathway. Of course, mixing substances is always going to put a person at higher risk for overdose, no matter what substances you're talking about. If somebody has a history of overdose, if they've overdosed previously, they are at higher risk for overdose in the future. If they have existing health issues, so if they have respiratory, chronic respiratory illnesses or liver disease or other chronic health concerns that might really tax their bodies, that can put them at higher risk for overdose. And certainly one of the things that will put a person at high risk for a fatal overdose is if they're using alone. And so that's why, as we talk about, the themes that we've heard tonight around meeting people where they're at and sort of letting folks kind of find, make change in their own ways. If they're not ready to totally stop using, we want to make sure that until they're ready for some positive change, that they're not using by themselves, because that is a very high risk situation for a potential fatality. It's worth knowing that Narcan, you'll hear people say Narcan or naloxone interchangeably. Naloxone is the generic medication. Narcan is a brand name. But it's a medication that only reverses an opioid overdose. Now, it's important to recognize that opioids are cut into so much of the drug supply in not just Massachusetts, but in the Northeast in general, that even if somebody is using another substance, there's a very good chance, if they are overdosing, that there could be fentanyl cut into what they're using. We're certainly seeing that, unfortunately, in the case of cocaine, there's a lot of stimulant use happening right now in our state where fentanyl is cut into the product. And so we want to make sure that even if folks don't think that they're using opioids, that they recognize that they could and not realize it. And that's another reason why those test strips exist. There is no potential for misuse or overdose in using Narcan or naloxone. So a person can't get addicted to it. They can't just use Narcan by themselves, by itself and get high off of it or overdose on it. So it's a very safe drug. It is legal to carry in Massachusetts. And as far as I know, in all 50 states at this point, it has been absolutely a critical component to our national strategies around trying to reduce opioid overdoses. So it is carried widely across the country. It should work within about 3 to 5 minutes or so, but it will only last in the body 30 to 90 minutes. And that window of time can be impacted by what a person used, how much they used, how potent that product was. But it's an important reminder that you have a window of time to get the person to a hospital or into an emergency department setting where where healthcare staff can actually take over the situation and really make sure that the person is well. We don't want folks reversing an overdose with Narcan and then saying, okay, we're good, because that person could actually go back into the overdose 30 to 90 minutes later. So we don't want to take that chance. So you will see in just a second that calling 911 is always going to be a big part of our overdose response strategy. So we're going to quickly, over the next 15 minutes or so, just walk through these steps for responding to an overdose. The first being that we're going to assess the person or try to figure out what's going on with them, try to wake them up. We're going to call 911. We're going to give naloxone or Narcan. If we feel comfortable doing it, we're going to do some rescue breathing, because when it comes to an opioid overdose, it's the respiratory system that's being most impacted. So helping that person breathe is the most important thing we can do. And then we're going to do our best to stay with the person, or if we have to leave them for a second for some reason, maybe we have to go open a door or unlock a door for first responders, we put them in the recovery position when doing that. So we're going to quickly watch just a very short video about some of the signs of overdose. And so hopefully the volume is going to work here. The sound is going to work.
Nobody wants to think about overdosing, but if you know what to look for, you can save somebody's life. Overdose looks like this. They're barely breathing, or not breathing at all. They are making a rattling and gurgling sound. They don't respond to loud sounds, or a strong touch, like digging your knuckles up and down the center of the chest. It also looks like this. Light skin turns blue, and dark skin turns gray. So check the color of their eyelids, lips, and fingernails. While it can look slumped over, like this, it could also look like a stiff, clenched upper body, like this. That's an overdose. And you know how to reverse it. Carry Narcan. And remember, you can always use rescue breathing to keep someone alive. You can learn the facts. You can reduce the harm. You can.
All right. And I will say we will be sending out the link to the website that has the videos you'll be seeing tonight, which are part of the You Can Save a Life campaign that we've been talking about tonight. All right, there we go. Next slide. So this is just sort of a summary of what you already heard in that video, but just as a quick reminder. So a person who may be experiencing an opioid overdose, they're going to present with slower absent breathing. So they may not be breathing at all or be breathing in a very shallow way. They are not responding to you when you try to wake them up. And you heard in that video that there was talk of rubbing the person's chest. That's what we call a sternal rub. If you even just touch your own sternum, this kind of bony plate that you have on your chest, if you use your knuckles and rub up against it, you don't have to press too hard for it to feel uncomfortable, and you'll have a little bit of a pain stimulation. A person who's experiencing an opioid overdose is likely not going to feel that, or they're not going to react to it. So that's a telltale sign that somebody is experiencing, at a minimum, some sort of major health emergency, but very well could be an opioid overdose. They may have limp or heavy limbs. We might see, as you heard in the video, either blue or purple or gray lips or fingernail beds. So those would be signs of oxygen deprivation. You may even hear some loud gurgling or snoring signs, and pinpoint pupils, teeny tiny little pupils. That in particular is a telltale sign of an opioid being involved. So if you come upon a person who has some combination of these symptoms, and certainly the lack of breathing or the limited breathing would be one of the biggest ones, you're going to jump into action, right? So you're going to your first instinct is probably going to be to call 911, and that's exactly what we want it to be. So you're going to call 911, you're going to let them know that you're with a person or you're seeing a person who doesn't appear to be breathing, they're not responding. Give the first responders the best information you can in terms of where you're located and what you can see or what you know about the situation. Sometimes we get questions or wonderings from folks about, well, what if I don't know the person? Could they sue me for trying to get involved? The good news is that we have Good Samaritan laws on the books that basically say that if you, in good faith, see a person who appears to be in medical distress and you stop and you try to assist them, you are not going to be sued. You can't be sued for trying to assist that individual. Sometimes folks who may be using together, maybe they're using substances together, may have some hesitation about calling 911, but the Good Samaritan law also protects a person who may have small quantities of drugs or drug paraphernalia on the premises from arrest or incarceration due to the presence of those items. Now, if a person has an outstanding warrant because of other drug-related charges or violent crimes or anything like that, the Good Samaritan law will not prevent that person from getting arrested. So that is an important caveat. But if folks are just using together and somebody starts to overdose, we want the person who's observing the overdose to call for help. We also have an important resource here in Massachusetts called Safe Spot, which is actually a 24/7 line a person can call if they are going to use and they are by themselves, and they will actually be monitored over the phone by an operator. And if the person doesn't respond within a certain period of time, that operator will actually contact local 911 centers in order to get a response. So that's an important resource for folks to know about. I don't have the phone number right in front of me, but if you Google Massachusetts Safe Spot, you will very quickly find it. So if you've assessed the person, they look like they're in respiratory distress, you've called 911 and told them what's going on, you're then going to go ahead and get that Narcan out. The kits that we give out here in Natick and that we have here tonight have 2 doses of Narcan in every single kit. And they are it is an incredibly easy medication to use. I have an expired dose right here. It's essentially just a peel back packaging. You're going to peel it back. You're going to hold the Narcan, and you can see here on the screen that with the illustration, you're going to put your thumb on the plunger, which the picture is white, but in the newer versions of Narcan, it's kind of a pinkish reddish plunger. You're going to place your thumb on that. You're going to put it into the person's nostril, and you don't have to put it up super far, just until you get resistance. And then you're going to press the plunger. I can do that right now and deploy this, and you'll see a little bit of a mist in the air. And that medication does not have to be inhaled by the person. If they were inhaling things easily, we probably wouldn't be in this situation, right? So it's just going to get absorbed by the mucous membranes in the nose. It will only work in the nostrils. So you cannot put it in any other bodily orifice and get it to work. It will only work in the nostrils. So you're going to go ahead and you're going to give a dose of Narcan. Now, it will take a few minutes for this to work. And so while we're waiting for the medication to work, the best thing we can do is to do some rescue breathing. Now, if you've been trained in CPR, go ahead and do CPR. The combination of rescue breathing and chest compressions can certainly help the person, but at a minimum, doing rescue breathing can be really helpful. And you'll see in all of the kits that we have, we actually have we have masks that you can put up between yourself and the person as a barrier in order to protect protect both of you from viral exchange of illnesses. So you're going to check the person's mouth. You're going to make sure it's clear. Ideally, you've got them laying down on a flat surface. You're going to tilt their head back. You're going to lift their chin, and you're going to pinch their nose. If you have this barrier, you're going to put it on over their face, and they actually have a very easily defined spot on the plastic that shows where your mouth goes, and you're going to put your mouth over their mouth, and you're going to give a breath every 5 seconds, and you're going to make sure that you actually can see their chest rising and falling. We actually have a CPR mannequin here that our fire department was kind enough to lend us tonight. And so if anybody here wants to practice in real time, you can practice before you leave this evening. But you're going to continue to give that breath every 5 seconds. And you're going to check to make sure that you can see that the chest is actually rising and falling. If after 3 to 5 minutes, you're still doing rescue breathing and you're not seeing a response yet, you're going to give the second dose of Narcan. But before we talk about that second dose, I'm going to just go to a rescue breathing video.
If you use drugs, carrying Narcan just makes sense. And because overdose happens, it also makes sense to learn basic rescue breathing techniques. If someone ODs, call 911, then the first dose of Narcan. If they're still not breathing and you're comfortable putting your mouth on theirs, or have an article of clothing that you can use as a barrier, here's what to do. Tip their head back and pinch their nose. Give one big breath every 5 seconds. If they don't wake up after 3 to 5 minutes, give another dose of Narcan. Keep giving breaths till help arrives. Rescue breathing not only saves lives, but keeps the brain alive. That's why you are there, because you can reverse an overdose. You can save a life. You can.
All right. So again, you're going to be doing one breath every 5 seconds. After a few minutes, check to see if the person has started breathing yet on their own. If they are not, you're going to go ahead and give them the second dose of Narcan. You're going to do it the same exact way. You're going to take that second dose out of your kit. You're going to take it out of the packaging, and we'd recommend that you put it in the other nostril that you hadn't already sprayed before. But if you in sort of the frenzy of the moment don't remember which nostril, don't stress about it. The most important thing is getting it into those nostrils. Now, it is worth mentioning, as you heard one of our panelists mention earlier, the presence of xylazine in the drug supply does complicate things a little bit more now. Xylazine is a veterinarian medication that actually sedates. It's used to sedate animals. And so one of the challenges is that with if xylazine is present, it may mean that when the Narcan actually starts working, you may not actually be able to see it as easily. So when we were doing these trainings 5, 6, 10 years ago, we would say, okay, watch to see if the person starts responding to you. They may be opening their eyes. They may be, talking back, and that may still happen. But what you really need to be paying close attention to is, do you see them breathing? Do you see their chest rising and falling? That's the evidence as to whether or not the Narcan is working. And so I say that because you might think that the Narcan is not working, the person's not responding, and in reality, the Narcan might be working, but it's the xylazine that's still making them appear to be very groggy and sedated. So keep an eye on the chest rising and falling as your evidence as to whether or not the Narcan's working. So go ahead again, and if you after a few minutes, 3 to 5 minutes of doing rescue breathing, you're not seeing that chest rising and falling on its own, go ahead and give that second dose. And then, again, we always recommend that you stay with the person until police and fire arrive on scene. The good news is here in Natick, police and fire tend to respond very quickly, but of course, everything depends on call volume on any given day and where our police and fire vehicles are dispersed around the community. But typically, you're going to see a very quick response within minutes. And both our police department and our fire fire department carry Narcan. And so whichever one gets on scene first, they will have Narcan present to help reverse an overdose. As you heard also, one of our panelists mention, it can take multiple doses to reverse an overdose. So the great news is that if you have 2 doses that you've already gotten into that person's system, if that has not been enough to reverse the overdose, you've gotten the first 2 doses in, and when police or fire get on scene, they can do an additional 3, 4, 5 doses if necessary to help save that life. But if you do, if either the person starts breathing on their own, or again, if you have to step away for a moment because maybe you have to go unlock a door for a first responder, you're going to want to put them in the recovery position. And that's because when that Narcan starts working, the person is going to experience some discomfort. They are going to experience some withdrawal symptoms that can include vomiting. And the last thing we want is for somebody to asphyxiate or choke on the vomit. And so we want them to be on their side. We want their hand not all the way underneath their head, because again, oxygen deprivation means that blood circulation is going to be a little bit more limited. And even as the person is coming out of the overdose, you don't want to constrict the flow of oxygen in the body more than necessary. So you don't want it underneath the head, but just sort of next to the person's cheek. And you want one leg sort of over the body, almost like a kickstand, in order to sort of reduce how much the person is able to kind of wobble or roll back and forth. You could even, if you're staying with the person, you could even maybe kneel right behind their back so that, again, they're less likely to roll backwards. So that is going to be the position you're ultimately going to be you're going to put the person in if they're breathing on their own, or if you have to leave them for a moment, you're going to put them into the recovery position. So as just a quick review, you're going to assess the person, look for some of those signs of a possible overdose. If it appears that a person's non-responsive, you're going to call 911 regardless. But if it looks like they're having respiratory distress, go ahead and prepare to use Narcan, provide rescue breathing, give a second dose of Narcan if necessary, and then if it's appropriate, put them in the recovery position. And just a few more reminders. Again, if they don't respond within 3 to 5 minutes, that's when you're giving that second dose of Narcan. It does wear off, so you cannot just count on the Narcan saving their life. You need to make sure that they're getting some professional medical support. They will experience some uncomfortable symptoms. They are going to be, if they are responsive, the person is likely to be disoriented, groggy, confused, and not feel very well. So the best thing you can do is have a very calm, friendly, and reassuring presence. If they start to come out of it and they're asking what the bleep is going on, you're going to let them know, "Hi, I'm Katie. It looked like you were having an overdose, so you have received some Narcan. Help is on the way. You're okay. You're safe. I'm here to help." Letting folks know that you're there, not as a judgmental person, not as a person who wants to, thinks that they deserve what they got, but that you're just a person who's there to help. Most of us, I think, if we saw a person experiencing any sort of medical crisis, we wouldn't stop to wonder, the person that looks like they just had a heart attack, do they really deserve that defibrillator? No, like we all, regardless of whether or not that person maybe had, you could see that maybe they had not taken great care of themselves. Maybe you saw them smoking outside right before they came into the building that you're in. You wouldn't say they don't deserve to survive that heart attack. You jump into action and try to save that life so that person can make their own choices going forward and hopefully get another chance at life. We want that for people who experience drug overdose too, that they have an opportunity to make the changes that they're ready for in order to hopefully be a part of society, be a part of saving more lives, like we heard Scotty Mack say, like be a part of their family. It's so important that we do what we can to continue to save lives. Narcan does need to be stored around room temperature, so no extreme cold or heat. It says right on the back of the package the temperature range that it's good at. It also says on the back of the packaging what the expiration date is. So the good news is that if you have expired Narcan, First of all, we can replace it for you at the Natick Health Department. Just give us a call and we will help you get some new Narcan. But if all you have is expired Narcan, go ahead and try it because most Narcan has been shown to work long after the expiration date. And like I said, it does only work in the nose. So keep that in mind when you are administering it. I do want to thank folks for their time. It is a little after 8 o'clock right now. And I know, again, that we have folks who are remote and we have folks who are here in person. So I want to be respectful of everyone's time, especially those who have to drive. This is our contact information at Natick and the Health Department. Please feel free to reach out and contact us anytime. As I mentioned, we will be sending out a post-event email with some of the resources that we've talked about tonight, including Safe Spot, which Astrid from our team was kind enough to get me the phone number while the video was showing. So in case anybody wants it, the phone number is 800-972-0590. That's 800-972-0590. And again, that's called Safe Spot, and that's here in Massachusetts. We will be sending out, though, a post-event email that will have some of those resources, the names and contact information of the folks who were on our panel tonight. And we will also have other resources, including, like, for instance, Anchored in Recovery was kind enough to share their calendar of meetings and events for the month of October. We have some printed copies of it in the back of this room, but we can send that out electronically to folks who are joining us remotely. And if you do have a moment tonight, it would be amazing if you could complete the following QR codes. The one on the left, I realize it says evaluation. I apologize. It's actually the QR code on the left is actually for registering anonymously to get a Narcan kit from us. That's just purely so that we can collect some information on the numbers of kits that we give out and just demographic information. So again, it's totally anonymous, but it allows us to do grant reporting and let, and report on some of the demographic information of folks in Natick who get trained in Narcan. So that's the left-hand side of the screen. On the right-hand side of the screen is the evaluation for tonight's event. So we just appreciate your feedback. We want to continue doing these kinds of recovery educational events and community educational events, but we want to do them on topics that interest you. And so we really benefit from your feedback. So please feel free to complete that very short Google form and just let us know what was helpful about tonight, what you'd like to see more of or less of. And we are so grateful for that feedback. So I will leave these QR codes up. And again, for those of you who are here in the room, please feel free to come up here, grab a Narcan kit before you leave. Feel free to participate in the art project that's over there in the back of the room, or stop and see Scotty Mack or Mike, learn a little bit more about their agencies. We have free t-shirts in the back of the room that are part of the Save a Life campaign. I'm wearing one of them right here. If you are joining us remotely and you want a free t-shirt too, we are happy to put it with the Narcan kit for you when you come and get that. So just let us know what size t-shirt you want. But there are lots of resources in the back of the room that we encourage you to help yourself too. And that's it. Thanks again for joining us tonight, everyone. Drive safely. And we look forward to seeing you at our next event. Take care.